Well, my name is Arianna Livshits. I am the Senior Event Planner at RPI, but formerly I was an Assistant Director of Admissions and an Admissions Counselor. I'm entering my 6th year in admissions at RPI, so I've been doing it for a long time. I graduated from Siena College actually in 2013 with a bachelor's in English, and I am currently writing a 30-page paper to finish up my master's in Educational Policy and Leadership from UAlbany. So I feel your pain about writing the essay, and I'm here to help you. So I've read over 7,000 college essays, so I'm very happy to talk to you all about writing essays in the whole process, because I know that some of you might have some questions. So essays really help tie the rest of the application together and fills in the information that we would not see anywhere else on the application. This is really the one part of the college process and the application process that is 100% under your control, and it really should be under the student's control. The essay will help us determine if we think you'd be a right fit for our campus, we think that you would be successful on our campus. And often reviewing essays is the most interesting part of the application process because we really get to see who you are as students. Last year at RPI, for example, we received over 20,000 applications, and many of them had great transcripts, great test scores, great extracurricular activities, letters of recommendation, and all of that. But sometimes the essay is really what sets students apart, and it gives us a better glimpse into why we want you on our campus and why we think you'd be successful. Think about it kind of like an interview, without all the questions, of course. All colleges can't require interviews just because they do have a lot of applicants, so it really is a time for us to get to know who you are without directly speaking to you. So I do have a few tips on when you're starting your essay. Be sure to really present new information about yourself as you're writing your essay. This is an opportunity to share something new, as it says up here, that you haven't been able to share somewhere else in your application, so don't waste it. Also, don't repeat what is on your application elsewhere. As I said, the essay is an opportunity for us to get to know you in a different light. Now, sometimes the wording could get a little bit tricky when it comes to the essay. Some applications use the word essay, and some of them use it as personal statement. Essentially, they do mean the same thing. If you're using the Common App, there are a few different prompts that you can choose from. It's labeled as an essay, but for some school-specific applications, they do list it as a personal statement. At RPI, for example, we do have an application that's specific to RPI. It lists it as a personal statement, but that's where we really do want to see your college essay that's a little bit longer, that dives into something deeper, a little bit about you. So a personal statement usually is not literally a sentence or two about yourself. It's really where we would like to see your essay. When you're picking a topic, I know this could be the tricky part. Definitely pick your topic carefully. Don't try to force yourself into writing about a Common App topic that doesn't really interest you. Sometimes the topic of your choice might be the best option because you might have something very unique to write about that doesn't necessarily fit in with all of the other topics. We can often tell if you're writing about a topic that you're not necessarily feeling, and we don't necessarily see your voice in that. So it is really important to stick to a topic that you are really enjoying and something that you really want to write about. In most cases, using an essay that you've written for an English class, if it's not incorporated into a unit in your senior year, might not necessarily be the best idea, just because the prompts for those essays are very specific for what you're supposed to be writing about. And the essay is supposed to be all about you. In English class, you're often taught to take the you out of your writing, but when you're writing your college essay, it really has to be all about you. So that is a very important message. And also, it's usually best to stay away from any diversive topics or divulging anything too personal or illegal in your essay. Now, moving forward to talking a little bit more about picking topics, go with your personality. If you're funny, you can definitely be funny in your essay. Are you not funny? Now is probably not the time to try to be funny. Are you creative? Write a song, a poem, do something different. I've read a few essays in the past where students have written an acrostic poem on why they're interested in RPI. That was pretty cool, so there's definitely ways to be very creative in this. And also just don't force yourself into an essay or topic that doesn't excite you, as I've been saying, or doesn't feel like you. We can usually tell if you're trying to force something or write about something that you think we want to hear. If you're having trouble, there's a lot of ways to go about picking a topic for your essay and just starting to brainstorm. You can really start by making a list, brainstorming your personality traits, your strengths, and just write anything you could possibly think of. There's no right or wrong answer when you're writing this list. Also, after you create your list, start an outline and write your first draft. And don't worry about making it perfect, just let your ideas organically flow. I know that sometimes students don't want to write multiple drafts of essays, but it is bound to happen. If you don't like your idea the first time, you can certainly scrap it and start again. There's never too many drafts, and it's really a good idea to just start getting the ideas flowing, even if you're not 100% set on that topic. Also, just really remember that there's an intro, a body, and a conclusion to every essay. Some students like to write the essay all in one night and just kind of be done with it and then rethink it the next day. A lot of students also like to break it up into little chunks. So if you want to break it up into a few paragraphs each day, start with the intro, the body, and then the conclusion. Sometimes, though, you can't start with the intro because you don't know exactly what you're going to write about. So sometimes it does help to start with the body first, the conclusion, and then move on to the intro because that'll introduce everything else you've already talked about. Now, I always get the question about what should I write about, what should I not write about, and a lot of students have some big events to share, either positive or negative. And it certainly is okay to write about a big event, but don't just tell the story. Make sure we hear about it, how it affected you, how you've overcome an experience, how you've grown. So just don't create a list of things. Make sure that you continue to relate the essay back to you. Also, try to avoid common topics, obvious cliches, or general quotes. We do get a lot of essays, or I have seen a lot of essays that are pretty similar. We get tons of essays on a community service project that's changed your life, an Eagle Scout project. At RPI specifically, we get lots of essays on Legos. So when I was 2, I played with my first Lego, and then I wanted to be an engineer. So if that is your life story, you can certainly write about it, but we do get a lot of essays like that, essays about not making a certain team. So just think outside of the box when coming up with the topic. Also, depending on the program and the schools that you're applying to, you may have some school-specific essays that you're required to write. If you're using the Common Application, the main essay gets sent to all of the schools since you're using that application, but there are some supplemental essays that are required. For example, within our School of Architecture, we have an essay on why you're interested in being an architect. Other schools that have that for other majors, so it is really important to read the specific guidelines for those school-specific essays and applications. A lot of those are more so why you're interested in that program, why you're interested in being a doctor for a medical program. So those are very specific, and you do need to make sure that you're answering the question for those specific essays. Now, once you have a topic and you're working on finalizing the essay, there's a few quick steps that you should definitely continue to look for. So the first thing is step away from the thesaurus. I am guilty of it as well. Write an essay, right click, and then try to figure out some fancy words to plug into the essay. That's not always the best step, and especially for your college essay. Using too many big words really takes away from the flow and authenticity of the essay. You have your SAT words that you've learned for the SATs, but leave those to the SATs and really write about how you speak in your college essay. It just comes across a lot cleaner. Also, be sure to proofread your essay and then read it out loud yourself in front of a mirror. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it is very helpful to read it out loud, slow down as you're reading it, and you'll be able to see if there's certain parts that don't necessarily work and certain parts that you might want to change a bit. Unless you're applying as an English or a communications major, the reader probably won't nitpick your grammar, but the essay certainly does have to be readable. Also, just remember that spell check doesn't fix all errors. It's certainly very helpful, but you do have to reread the essay as well. If you wrote repeated words or other words that are spelled correctly, but they don't really fit in that part of the sentence, spell check doesn't always check all of those things, so be sure to go back and spell check it yourself. Also, stay within the word counts. Usually there are very specific word counts for a reason within the essays. You can certainly get very carried away as you're writing them, but it is important to stay within the word counts because the admissions counselors are reading so many different essays, so it is important to keep them very succinct about the topic that you're interested in. Also, at the end of this, you should have an adult read your essay who doesn't really know too much about you. I know that might sound counterproductive, but if an adult can read it and say that they learned something new about you, then that's an awesome essay, and you're really getting your point across. So it is important to do that. But at the same time, you should also have somebody read the essay who does know a lot about you to make sure that your own voice is coming across and it sounds like it's an essay that's coming from you. If it sounds like your mother or your father in that essay, might not be your specific voice, and it is important to have your voice in your essay. Now, as I've said, I've read so many different essays, and it's really hard to pick a few of my favorites, but these pictures represent a few of my favorite essays. So the first one, the top corner, it's an ice cream carton, and this student wrote about a startup company that she had. It was an ice cream packaging method in which egg-shaped pre-packaged scoops are offered in an egg carton-like package. And this method of serving ice cream and selling ice cream really avoids the hassle of scooping ice cream. You can offer multiple varieties in a specific carton, and it provides portion control. I met this student at a college fair, and then I remembered her when I was reading her application, and I read her essay, and she's actually a current freshman at RPI. So a very cool success story there. Another picture was from a high school student who wrote about how shy she was, and she really made a conscious effort to want to get out of her comfort zone. So she actually decided to switch high schools on purpose to really step out of her comfort zone and become somebody different, become somebody who's not as shy. And she just felt that she couldn't do that at her other school because everybody knew her. Long story short, but she really just blossomed in that specific essay and in general, and she's actually one of our student ambassadors now. And you have to be very loud and excited to be a student ambassador, so it's very cool to see that she's made that transformation. And then also another essay that I really enjoyed was a student that wrote about her passion for dance. It was found after her parents forced her to play soccer, and she spent more time picking flowers and jumping gracefully over the puddles than actually kicking the ball. So she realized soccer was not for her, and dance probably was. And it definitely was, because she did it for about 16 years. So all of those essays were very cool and really showed us something unique about that specific student, and didn't just list grades or extracurricular activities or test scores. It was really about them, and all the essays should really just be talking about you. Now, I do have an excerpt from an essay that I'm going to read and just talk a little bit about important things about this essay. This is an example of how you might be interested in starting your essay, and just a few things to think of. So it starts off by saying, I had never broken into a car before. We were in Laredo, having just finished our first day at a Habitat for Humanity worksite. The volunteers had already left, off to enjoy some Texas barbecue, leaving me behind with the college kids to clean up. Not until we were stranded did we realize we were locked out of the van. Someone picked a coat hanger out of the dumpster, handed it to me, and took a few steps back. Can you do that thing with a coat hanger to unlock it? Why me, I thought. More out of amusement than optimism, I gave it a try. I slid the hanger into the window seal like I'd seen on crime shows, and spent a few minutes jiggling the apparatus around inside of the frame. Suddenly, two things simultaneously clicked. One was the lock on the door. I actually succeeded in springing it. The other was the realization that I'd been in this type of situation before. In fact, I've been bored into this type of situation. So this essay really just kind of hooks you from the beginning. Obviously, you would never think that somebody's writing about breaking into a car for their college essay, but that's not what it really means when you continue to read it. The student goes on to talk about how he grew up as a middle child in his family. He had a chaotic life, and really the importance of letting go of the small stuff, not expecting order and perfection, and facing the unexpected in life with confidence, optimism, and preparedness. So this was really a great essay and a good example to kind of look back on, because they opened up with an anecdote, really sucked the reader in, and explained things throughout the essay that really showed how the student grew. So here's a quick example of an essay that this basketball hoop is a different point, an essay that fell a little bit flat. Hi, my name is John. I'm from a small town in Tennessee, and I've lived here all my life. I love to play soccer. I'm an Eagle Scout. I play the saxophone, and I love spending time with my friends. I've always enjoyed building things and seeing how things work, and that's why I wanted to be an engineer. My Eagle Scout project was to build a new shed for a local youth soccer program, and I really enjoyed it. So what's the difference between the essay I read previously and this essay? Yeah?
There's no character.
No character? Anything else? Yeah? Exactly. It is a very listy type of essay where it's I did this, I'm this, and then I did this. Not necessarily the best thing for your college essay, because a lot of these things we do see in your application in other spots. So there's a spot on all the applications to list extracurricular activities, list things that you've done. So if there's lists in other places, the essay is really not a place for lists. Also, it is important to kind of stray away from advocating your religious beliefs or politics within an essay as well. I've read essays before where one student wrote passionately about one candidate and completely bashed the other opponent. So it really could have been a good essay if they talked a little bit more generally about the election or issues surrounding it, but not necessarily taking a side, because you never know who is reading the essay. Also, we get tons of essays on the game-winning shot, and many students do have a similar story to share like that, and if you feel comfortable sharing it, the essay is really that place to do so. It's not necessarily a bad essay topic, just make sure that it does relate back to you and it is a little bit creative. And then I just have a few kind of housekeeping notes about the college process in general, and then I'll certainly take any questions that anybody has. So are all of you seniors in the room for the most part? Some juniors as well? A mix of both? Okay, awesome. So as you're contacting colleges, doing your application, and all of that, be sure to use an appropriate dedicated email address for your college applications. It should really be your own, not a parent's email, and you should check it regularly, including your junk folder. Sometimes college emails do get sent into the junk folder, so it is really important to be sure to check this email and keep it consistent. If you change your email address, we have no way of knowing that. Once it's on the application, it's kind of set in stone unless you email us or call us and tell us that your email address is different. So it is important to keep that consistent. We can email students questions about your application, missing documents, so it is really important to be sure to keep on top of your email. Also, it is important for students to be the ones who are making the phone calls and sending the emails to admission staff. Parents, it's always great to hear from you, but students should really be taking the lead on all of these things. But of course, if it's questions about financial aid or anything very specific, we do welcome those types of questions from parents. And also, as you're sending emails to admission staff, make sure that you sign your emails with your full name and your date of birth. If you're using the common application, it makes it very easy for us to find your application based on your name and your date of birth. Also, a lot of schools do give out specific ID numbers when you apply. So at RPI, for example, we have RINs. It's a Rensselaer identification number. It's even easier if you can include an identification number in your email, then we can match everything up very quickly. And parents, again, your primary role should really be to keep your students on track with deadlines, helping arrange college visits, and really navigating through the college admissions process. Same thing goes for if you're reaching out to college coaches. If you're interested in being a varsity athlete, it is really important for the I realized I wasn't clicking this. It is very important for the students to reach out to the college coaches because they are the ones who are ultimately playing on their team. And also, for everybody who's visiting college campuses, this is just kind of my word of advice, visit lots of different schools. Visit small schools, big schools, schools that are in a city, schools that are a little bit more rural. And every time you visit a college campus, you'll be able to check one thing off your list, one thing that you like about the campus and one thing that you don't like about the campus. And that being said, you'll be able to really create your college list and your dream school of what you're looking for. So I can't stress enough the importance of really visiting colleges and really talking to admission staff. So that's about all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me about the essay, the college process in general? Anything like that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.